Do you want to bring balance to all the wireless radiation fields in your life, including 5G? The Omnia Radiation Balancer is a small sticker you can stick on any device. It changes the state of the field and creates a new resonance between the wireless radiation and your energy field. On the link below, you'll see all our testing results that show how the body responds excellently once you've made this change in your life. And here's a special offer for the Journey to Truth crowd. Just enter the word truth in caps at the checkout for your 10% discount. It's easy to bring balance back to your body with the Omnia Radiation Balancer.
All right, guys, welcome back. Before we get started tonight, we're going to go over a few things. For one, you guys know Aaron and I will be speaking at the Great Family of Light Gathering in Sedona, July 23rd through the 25th. What are you going to talk about, Aaron?
I don't know.
Going to have to come and find out.
Have to come and find out.
No, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're really excited to be hanging out with all you guys. Some great speakers there. Tickets are only $333. $222 if you pay with crypto. There is a live stream available for $111 and $77 if you pay with crypto. The link is in the description below if you want to purchase tickets, familyoflight.info. And as you know, also, I'll be speaking at ESETI this year. We'll be hanging out there as well. So whoever is going to be at either one of those conferences, we're looking forward to meeting you guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. What else? Hopewell Farm. So we've had some people complaining that they couldn't reuse the promo code. They can only use it once. We got that fixed. Now you can use the promo code indefinitely. Journey to Truth 10 gets you 10% off for everyone who was worried about that. Now you can use it as much as you want. And one last thing. Some of you guys have saw the poster that we just put on Teespring. We put it up on social media. Just wanted to give a shout out to Katrina Vogel. She's a fan and now friend of ours. She made that for us. It's supposed to be us in Inner Earth, and it's a really, really cool depiction of us. And we want to thank her and want you guys to go check out her page, KatrinaVogel.art on Instagram. Give her a follow and see what she's up to. She's doing some really incredible work. That being said, tonight we are joined by Maryam Henein. Did I say that right? I got it right. She's an investigative journalist. She's been censored, shadow banned, functional medical consultant, director of the documentary Vanishing of the Bees, author of George Floyd, a multi-layered psyop, examined, a few other books. I know you're involved in plenty more. You've been at this for 25 years now. I believe that's what you said. And there's tons going on right now as far as everything, not just journalists, citizens, everyday people are being censored. We're all being suppressed. We're being muzzled, however you want to put it. So there's a lot to get into tonight. Welcome to the show.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I used to say when it was still novel to be censored that Roseanne Barr today, you tomorrow. I was accused, are you a Roseanne Barr fan? I said, I'm a First Amendment fan. Mm-hmm. And this was 2016, 2017, when I first started talking about what I dub techno-fascism, which has gained in popularity and looking at technology and censorship. And the Ministry of Truth is alive and kicking, full of projections. And I really believe, like, for instance, I was sharing that I was listening to yet another hearing about the deadly insurrection. And I was there at the Capitol. I shared my footage with Rudy Giuliani. I witnessed taking part in a LARP. And unless you really pay attention to details, which many don't because we live in an age of mediocrity, that you'll lose what's really happening. I speak of narration supremacy. And it's like a tsunami that comes over. And whether we're speaking about George Floyd or the election or January 6th, it's very difficult to keep track. And the gaslighting is at such a all-time high that you question, maybe you can relate, question, because they seem so sure and convicted of their beliefs. But even having Christopher Wray there, for instance, like that's a joke. Who really trusts the FBI when it seems that their investigations are quite myopic?
Yeah. Any of the three-letter agencies right now, can we trust any of them? It's the government itself, the current administration. I mean, there's a lot of, nothing is standard procedure anymore. Everything is done differently now. And that's for a reason, because things aren't as they appear, and they're trying to cover up something. And that's what we're going to get to the bottom of. And that's what I wanted to get into today is, what has the media been lying to us about, if not everything? The virus, the vaccine, the election, all of it.
Yeah. In before the election, I was in Florida. I bought a copy of, well, this was right after the election, a Scientific American. And obviously they wrote this pre-election, and they were already lumping the people who are questioning the vaccine, which has been in my beat as a functional medicine consultant and someone who's reversed an autoimmune condition. But they lumped people that are vaccine hesitant, people that question the Rona and the election all at once. Like, how did you know? The election hasn't even happened yet, and you're already putting all these three people. It's very fascinating to see how this psychological operation has impacted humans. And I am not for face diapers, especially outside. It's probably the first day here in San Francisco where you actually feel it's June, and there's plenty of people. And plus, we don't have to wear them anymore in establishments. So I was very happy to embrace that. Went into a Wells Fargo, and we prefer our customers to wear masks. And I just said, well, I prefer to breathe. Bye. Leave me the fuck alone, lady. But this, for me, has really been exercise to be less vocal, to just shut it, because most people need to cultivate balls, and that's why if they whistle blow, it's a big deal. But I've blown the whistle on Bayer, and I blow the whistle in my everyday by being vocal and calling out bullshit. There's no shortage of bullshit. I just found myself today. I wish I had my loudspeaker, but just usually I don't do this anymore. But just like, why are you wearing your face diaper outside? It's mind-boggling, because that means that they are cut off to their intuition. Something's not computing inside. They're like, oh, I need fresh air.
Yeah, breathing is like the number one thing our immune system, our oxygen is the number one thing our immune system needs. When you cut that off.
Well, it's not even, they're not even thinking for themselves at all. It's like, all it takes is just basic logic. Like, I'm outside, I don't need to be wearing this. There's no reason at all.
Yeah.
Like, at all. But the programming is so strong. They're just like, I wear this all the time, without a second thought. And they just do it.
Well, they want
so dangerous.
Unfortunately, and we probably sound like a broken record talking
right.
about.
I was just thinking that too. I'm like, God, I've said this so many times.
Yeah, but you know what? It's the times. It's the times. We face it. We deal with it. We see it every day, and these people are being made to feel like they're a stand-up citizen if they're complying by wearing their mask and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's
also that.
Yeah.
That's the big.
Oh, so many reasons. Down to like they're super insecure and feel ugly and find it's like sucking your little thumb. You're hiding behind your face diaper, and you're finding solace by cutting everyone down to the same level. They actually get off on that. And I feel like someone who's been in the who's in health and wellness, and it's no joke to reverse lupus. It's no joke to be like, yeah, I had a 13-inch metal rod in my leg that I removed and I learned how to walk again. And yeah, I'm 48. So what am I doing that you can't do? And then to have these people in health, and whether it's Pilates, massage, and it's like, I got vaccinated or I had to lie to get on my yoga mat because now vaccinated people, it's such a farce. It's such a farce by the sheer just thought, oh, because the government told you, and this warp speed, you're the guinea pig. Fine, go guinea pig yourself, and let's talk in 5 years.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
Well said. Yeah.
I mean, they want you to
Exactly.
feel privileged. They want the vaccinated people to feel privileged. And they obviously, we're seeing the signs, vaccinated people this way, unvaccinated. We saw this years ago. It's just history repeating itself.
Right.
Yeah.
I called it out in 2016 when I covered Zika, and Fauci, the pandemic impresario, that's what I call him, was behind that too. And I spent 2020 relishing in all the clips and archival footage and screaming, vocally being expressive. And I'm done. The fact, even I looked to see when they recirculated this GOF Wuhan story line, and I'm like, April 2020 is when I was tweeting about this, and now it's 2021, and now you're embracing this. Why is he gonna be the fall guy? He's about 87 presidents or 42 years in circulation. He's now created his pièce de résistance, the Rona, and he can exit and take the fall. It's very curious to me why now the mainstream is embracing the fact that this is a man-made. And I believe that what's been going on is that the numbers, they've robbed them from influenza, and that there is also a man-made nasty virus that has attacked people on a vascular level, that we're seeing these long haulers. But because we've primed the environment, and there's 1 in every 2 people has a chronic illness today. So we've created this perfect storm, and I can draw parallels between the honeybees and humans. And I've said for a while now, we are the honeybees. We are the ones who are dying slowly by sublethal doses. It's death by 1,000 cuts, and it's very difficult to say, with the vaccine included, oh, this is what caused your issue. It makes me laugh when it's like, I've said, and it's nasty of me, but I've spoken to some person and I said, you really care? Why don't you lose 60 pounds, buddy? And then he was like, fuck you. But this is a good example of being mindful and not directing our anger or frustration, because everyone's fuse is shorted now. We're all prickly. So my message is really mindfulness, self-awareness, compassion, and I speak for myself. We're humans, and it's really sad to see how there is no sense of like forgiveness or lambasting someone for something they did 10 years ago, where we're supposed to grow. I'm not the same person I was yesterday. And hopefully that's of everyone, that they're evolving. That's why we're human. We learn through mistakes, and we learn through each other.
Yeah, it's like that meme, you've changed. We're supposed to, that's so true. If you can't live the same year over and over and over and over and call it life. We're supposed to break free from that and find our place here. And that's what we're all doing right now. So, as far as going back to what you said about how all the stuff that we were calling BS on immediately when this virus hit, we lost accounts over it. The media just had a heyday with us. And then now they're reporting on it as fact. You said, why all of a sudden now? What has changed? Fall guys, we got Bill Gates, Fauci, all of a sudden they clearly look like they could be fall guys. Right. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see where this.
Well, I think they know shit's about to hit the fan. They're trying.
Or maybe
to,
now it's like, psych. Oh, you got that jab? Whoops.
Yeah. I think they're trying to save their own
Wouldn't be
asses is what I think, because they know shit's about to come out. It's about to, stuff's about to
The
start
thing
happening.
is,
trying to soften
They're
the blow.
trying to soften the blow. They're trying to get ahead of it. Yeah. As much as
yeah,
they
well,
can. But
we
it's
will
like,
see.
we're like, oh yeah, so we were right this whole time and you were wrong. And they're just like, oh, sorry.
Mhm.
I also think like it's transcending beyond blame and wrong or right, and being able to hear each other. And any logical person will, before I dubbed myself a conservative, I thought I was a Democrat. I had Trump supporters, and I never blew them off or wrote them off, because it was more like a fascination, like, oh, I want. And then when I never was filled with hate for Orange Man, and if anything, that's what really turned me off, the blinding hate. And then with the Rona, I had just covered before that Samoa, and I saw that they mass vaccinated 200,000 people in 30 days, and they passed the law of love, which basically says to parents that we, the government, have jurisdiction over your child. And many of us in this space thought that it was going to be Ebola. I was speaking to a whistleblower that thought it was Ebola. I was working for Vaxxter, and Dr. Sherry Tenpenny thought it was going to be Ebola. And so when the Rona hit, you can see a man on the street that I did with Zach. And it was like right before the Oscars, it's January. And I get on my tippy toes because I didn't have a microphone. And I'm like, I'm calling this the virus that didn't cry wolf. And I could hear Zach's thoughts, like, what the fuck is she talking about? And I even said, I'm like, what does it mean? This is what it meant, folks. I even was accused of working for Bill Gates, because they're like, how did you know to go to Costa Rica? Which, by the way, the day we got there, the Rona arrived in Costa Rica too. And it was a great reinforcer of, oh, look, the narrative is here as well. And I wrote an article for Vaxxter on how censorship and the coronavirus don't mix. And it's really, and I contributed to Plandemic, and it's really sad. My mom just told me 2 days ago that she's going to get the vaccine, and I hung up on her, and I haven't heard from her. And yeah, I'm sorry. We all have these stories, and she's 76, and she succumbed to pressure from her doctor, from her husband, from whoever. But for her daughter be like the antithesis, and to be knowledgeable, and to put herself out there at what, I don't get paid for my work. They've attacked my company with Operation Quack Hack, and I'm censored, I'm shadow banned, I'm censored from, and this now it's normal, or it's like everybody, but it was still novel to be like PayPal 2017, Kiva, GoFundMe, which has ties to Big Pharma, Instacart, Amazon took my books for a while, and I fought that. The day of the deadly insurrection, I lost thousands on Twitter. I lost my merchant processor for CBD, because that's another reason they came after me. I've been selling CBD before Martha Stewart and Kim Kardashian as early as 2016, because I am in the future. And Square was owned by Jack Dorsey, and they dismantled my processor. And for 5 months, I wasn't able to make any money on that site. Operation Quack Hack, for your audience, and maybe for you, is the actual name, Quack Hack, named by the FDA. It's witch hunt with the DOJ and the FTC to go after people who are in health and wellness who sell online. I sell vitamin C, silver, magnesium, and I have done so. It's not like the Rona made me act differently. And they say that we are trying to profit. That's the irony, profit from the Rona, while they have all their bullshit EUA just for money. I mean, just the PCR test. I met someone who's like, I sells PCR tests here in San Francisco. And I'm like, that's full of shit, right? It's not a diagnostic test. And he nodded. And I said, hey, I'm not judging you. And he said, I'm judging myself, because he knows he's making a crap load of money conning people.
Yeah.
That's the PCR test, which again, since last year, been blowing the whistle on. It doesn't look for things like TB. It doesn't look for serious things. They can just, now let's switch down the amplification and we can say that Joey is responsible in the vaccine for lowering the cases of the Rona.
If anything, they're giving you a false positive, if anything. Right. And then what does that do to you psychologically right off the bat? It puts fear. It puts fear in you. And then you comply, and then you're just taking the bait, and they have you. So I mean, I know,
I know people that have died since taking, people that were well and then took the PCR test. They were older. One was my uncle, and I told my dad, just letting you know that if you put him on a ventilator, again, February 2020, I was talking about vents. And my dad said straight up, quote, I don't care what you have to say. Why should you? I'm a journalist. I'm in health and wellness. Thousands of hours I've spent. My uncle was dead 2 days later. And he was fine. He was fine. His wife had a stroke, so they decided to be safe and go get their bullshit PCR test. And he was positive. She wasn't. And then he got sick after nostril rape, because sometimes that happens, that once you succumb to nostril rape, you get sick with whatever the hell is on that swab. Another person that was also older, put on a vent, was
the
fine.
Ventilator is what killed him. Then
but that's so specific. And the people who are like, you're downplaying death, how dare you, or trying to shame me. I say, I'm into specifics. Bring me every dossier and let's be specific and see what was going on. And again, 1 in every 2 people is sick. And this, if you have comorbidities, so the fear is the real virus. Hate is the real virus. And the
virus can't survive without the media. I've said that before plenty of times. And if you really think about it, those of us who were paying attention when all this happened, as it was going down with the ventilators, there were nurses coming forward. These people were putting out videos. They were showing you what was going on in the hospitals and marking false fraud. Yeah, all the fraud, marking the false fraud COVID. In the hospitals. And where are all those videos now? I'm sure, they've been scrubbed.
I'm sure.
They know that we only remember things. We retain a memory for, I don't know, what is it, like 7 to 18 days, or there's like a time period where it sticks with us. So if they can distract us with something else and just pump that into our brains, even though it was something so significant as this being fraudulent, they just bank on us forgetting it by means of their distraction.
Yeah, I mean, again, if someone pays attention to details and nuances, then this wouldn't happen. And that requisites the proverbial you doing research, or at least trusting people like me that are sticklers, that source things, instead of engaging in ad hominem attacks. I was trying to liberate people because in January, Zach and I got hazmat suits. We went to the comedy center. They were laughing at us and we're like, just wait. We'll come back in 2 weeks. We'll see who's the weirdos, because we're in the future. But we fell for it and we got masks. And I personally, I like to say to a face diaper wearing person, do you know what size the virus is? No, you don't. It's 0.125. That face diaper is 0.3. It does nothing. So it's
literally, and of course, if you on the package of the, it literally says it on
the package.
The package. It says,
well, it does do something. It's harmful.
It's harmful.
Yeah.
It's actually what it's
yeah, but it does nothing as far as the virus.
It doesn't help at all. Anything.
Well, the good thing is people like you are standing up now. We have people just the other day, Ivory Hecker, the Fox reporter, on air, blew the whistle that she was being muzzled. And now she's on Project Veritas sharing her story. And I heard one of the recordings that they told her that they thought that she had failed as a reporter by doing that. And they were like belittling her and just making her, they really wanted her to feel like she fucked up. And whenever all she was wanting to do is, hey, these people need to know they're being deceived.
Yes, I say that journalists used to enjoy unraveling cover-ups, and now they're engaging in the cover-up.
Mm-hmm.
They are part of the cover-up. I used to be part of the mainstream, just to tell you in your audience that when I graduated from journalism school in 96, and I came out to Los Angeles for a boy, and I stayed here, and I took a job for Channel 4 News, producing the news for the internet. So I've been part of the internet since the get-go. And my father worked for IBM. He's a mechanical engineer. So I was privy to be part of, I played video games. I was very androgynous, but so I embraced the mainstream. I wanted to be part of it. I used to write for Penthouse. I used to write for Hollywood Reporter, Maxim. And then when I blew the whistle on Bayer and I made my film, slowly, I got ixnayed. And I had written about the politics of CBD in 2017 because I called 2017 the year of playing whack-a-mole, because I was shut down by merchant processors. And my company was meant to make $3 million, Honey Colony, and instead it lost 250,000. But so I wrote a story and I pitched it to Marie Claire. And I was thrilled that the mainstream was embracing me, even though they had dumbed down my story for their magazine. And then I got a call and they asked me what my personal views were on vaccines. And 3 days later, they killed my story.
Yeah. No coincidence, right?
Oh, yeah. No coincidence.
Well,
coincidence.
I mean, you have to, you could at least sleep at night knowing you're doing the right thing. And that's what we all have to remind ourselves, because it's not easy. Even with what we do, especially lately, the amount of hatred coming from some of these trolls, whatever you want to call them, it's unjustified. I don't understand. It's like these people are being activated.
Right.
And
well,
we just have to remind ourselves we're doing the right thing here, or this wouldn't be happening, right?
Yes. Speaking with one another, like what we're doing now, and connecting. Arguably, these people can't sleep fine at night. They're sociopathic, they're psychopathic, or they, you say lies enough times, and they believe these false personas. And again, this is spiritual warfare. I seem to gravitate, or people gravitate to me, if they've had a spiritual practice, if they're heart-based, if they acknowledge. Also, everything is a test, right? It's like, I got hit by a car. I had to learn how to walk again. If I wasn't who I am today and resourceful, who knows what state I would have been in. But it's not what, I say this often, not what happens to you, but what you do with what happens to you. And it's transcending the victim mentality, because let's say with censorship, I have been victimized, you've been victimized, but what do we do about it? Now there's a contests going on how big of a victim can you be? This whole BLM, it's not empowering Black lives. It's keeping them down. And with a lot of these psyops, whatever, or let's say there's real people who think that they're supporting BLM and Black Lives Matter, but they're not realizing that they're part of another entity that is damaging and trying to erode the principles of the Constitution.
Yeah, exactly. Because we have to remember that it's important to note that some of the people that are supporting BLM are just actually ignorant to what the corruption and the psyop, and they really think that they're doing the right thing. And that's nobody's fault, because we're grown. We are, that's just the way we're raised. We're raised in this toxicity.
Yeah. And to find in my quest, because I'm writing my book on George Floyd, and I'm investigating at the same time, it's been difficult. Like yesterday, I called an attorney that had worked with George when he was 25, and she had offered to help him in exchange for helping with handiwork, and he effed off the duties. In any case, I called her. I can't find anyone to really speak to me honestly, because everybody's scared, or they're towing the party line of Black Lives Matter, and it's just, they're speaking bullshit to me. They're not speaking. This had nothing to do with race, and even Keith Ellison gave a big FU to the world when he went on 60 Minutes and acknowledged that it had nothing. But yet people that I've spoken to are either scared, and if you think cops usually have a pack mentality, the fact that the few cops that came forth, well, there was Lieutenant Kroll, who was invited to resign, and he was a Trump supporter, and then there was, I forget his name, Bob. In any case, he's the one who woke up. It wasn't his home, but his old home in Santa Rosa had a pig's head with blood all over it. And I had one attorney that represented George in his career as a criminal, and was toting the Black Lives Matter and just saying good things. But then he said, now that it's been a year, I'll say this on the record, off the record, this had nothing to do with race. But he wouldn't have said it. He wouldn't have the balls to say it. And unfortunately, it's not a matter of do you know what's going on, or do you know what's right? Or it's about whether you're going to act on it and have the courage. And those acts of courage, let's say I'm going to sound my mouth off at the airport, it's only going to, I'm going to be on a no-fly list. So it's not going to help. We have to do it together, like flash mobs and hopefully now it's coming to an end. Although people still want to wear their face diapers. They feel comfortable.
Well, yeah, that's exactly. I like how you said that. Yeah, we can go out on our own. But yeah, no fly list. It's strength in numbers. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. But what do we actually do when everywhere you turn, you're being stepped on, we're being suppressed, we're being silenced, muzzled, whatever you want to call it? I think we are doing what we can do right now, and the tides are turning. Things are changing. It's not going to be like this forever. And until we get over the hump, whatever that looks like, we just have to stick together online. It's not like we're all going to go out in the street. You see other countries that hundreds of thousands of people are out in the streets, and yeah, it does help. But what's actually changing?
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we were out on the streets on January 6th. I don't know if you were there.
I wasn't, no.
I cried just from all the people. I was so blown away. I just got the shivers just thinking of how many people turned up, and that Joey could just wish to have a fraction of those people. And look at what happened. It's the deadly insurrection now. It's the big lie.
Yeah. They just announced today on the radio. My dad actually let me know. He said the Biden administration is putting together a hotline that you can call to report radicalized family members. And
they're going full Nazi.
Yes. And
well, they already were. That's more obvious.
But there's a hotline. I just heard this today, and it just blew my mind. I'm like, okay, like how dangerous is that? And what happens if they do report you? What is the consequence? Are they going to come knock on your door? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, we've been evoking Snitch Nation since last year when the contact tracer program came out of John Hopkins. I took it to get into the mind. I minored in psychology, and I look at everything through a psychological lens to see what these people were. They get off. They get off on the snitching, and it's been a theme, even with the deadly insurrection, like Brandon Straka had his family member turn him in. It's very in vogue, and it's reinforced, and it's rewarded. It's very much ministry of truth. And when push comes to shove, the peer pressure, it's difficult. People will succumb for different reasons to be part, to not be the troublemaker, I guess. Just like in 1984, they succumb.
Yeah, and there's also self-empowerment there, unfortunately, by building yourself up by putting someone else down, and it allows you to ignore your own problems and not have to face yourself when you're calling out, when you
feel like a good person.
Yeah, when you're calling out someone else,
actually being a good person.
Say that again.
Right.
It makes you feel like you're
right.
a good person and doing good things without actually doing good things and being a good person.
Yeah.
Very well said. Yeah.
You just it's emotional manipulation, and that's been a famous tactic of the elite, so to say, for a long time. It's how can we emotionally manipulate people to do what we want them to do to fulfill whatever agenda they have, and that's been going on for a really long time. But as soon as you basically just stop believing everything you're told and start becoming a sovereign being and thinking for yourself and being like, well, what do I think about here's what I'm told, but what is true and what's not? What do I believe? You're not going to be susceptible to this. But unfortunately, as we see, many, many people are very susceptible to this because it's like an easy way to feel good about yourself and to not have to
identify with something.
We're
doing this together. And, I asked one woman months ago, why are you wearing your face mask in the car? And she's like, right away got defensive and she's like, it's my body, my choice. I understand. But do you know why you're wearing your face mask? Is it because your sedan is going to infect you? And then she's like, I'm doing it for you. Honey, don't do it for me.
Because that's what they're told.
Doing it for you. Don't give a fuck about me. You don't care. You don't even know me. I just came up to you and asked you a question. But see,
if they really cared about you and then you tell them that, they would care about your opinions. And if you are like, I don't want you to wear that. So if they really cared about you,
they'd listen to you.
They would listen to you. Exactly. But they don't. They usually fire back with hate and fuck you, or whatever.
Yeah.
If you try to talk to them about that.
I was in yoga class and they were talking about this is a rebirth. It's a rebirth because the vaccines have saved us. And I'm just thinking, you're forced under lockdown and imprisonment, and now we're going to celebrate a fucking rebirth because a jab has suddenly made everything okay. Or they would say, like, behind their muzzles, take a deep breath, and I'd be like, are you kidding me? And I make the sin of like, what's your transgression? I showed my nostrils. I admit it.
Yeah.
And be like, the theme of the class is how to cultivate strength to stand in your truth. And I felt like saying, bitch, this ain't my truth, but I couldn't do that. So they're telling us things that they don't really mean, because if I was really to embrace the lesson of the class, I would have said, this is not my truth. And I would have been kicked out. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, unfortunately, there's situations like that still that we're all going to find ourselves in, and we have to make a choice. And it's I don't know. We could beat this dead horse all day,
let's change the subject.
Yes.
I'm sure you've talked about
I want
ad nauseum.
Not as much as you would think. We just because of censorship reasons, but I wanted to get into your near-death experience. And see, I love hearing these stories because everyone's is unique, and there's always a transformation that comes afterwards. And I'm just interested to hear what that looked like for you.
Yeah, thank you. I've been on a spiritual path since I was 13, and at 13, I went to Sunday school, and Mark, one of our friends, had been hit by an 18-wheeler and then succumbed to a coma. And around that time, 13, I was reading Out on a Limb by Shirley MacLaine and really questioning Christianity and asking questions. And I was young, but still. So fast forward to, I was in Los Angeles and I was working at NBC, and stepped into a crosswalk outside of the Bodhi tree, which is referenced. It's a now defunct metaphysical bookstore that is been a landmark and was famous in LA. And so ironically, I was hit right outside of that store and dragged 50 feet into the adjacent crosswalk. And so during that time, I became everything and nothing, and had this out-of-body experience. And I heard the words, they're in Latin, but then I looked it up, and it was know thyself, and came back into my body. And after that, it seemed like my intuition was heightened. I developed supranasal powers because I broke my tailbone, and apparently the sense of smell is attached to the tailbone. So they say, in any case, I had supranasal powers. I ended up eventually going to the psychic school in California, and just, it's a muscle. Like we said earlier, everybody is intuitive, but really cultivating that. And now this year, I'm really like embracing it, that I'm in the future. So after that, I was pretty lost for a while. I had so much physical pain for 4 years, and because I had this 13-inch titanium rod in my femur, and I was working with someone who was helping me channel my higher self. And even though like may come across as woo-woo or hippie, I'm only one part woo, I say, because I am skeptical and I ask questions. But she was working with me, and she said that it was a very special time because I wasn't completely back into my body because I'd gone somewhere else. So it did make me really feel like I need to embrace my life and make the most of it. And I want to do something to give back, to be in service, and to transcend, just be more than. And then the bees flew into my life, and they stuck, as I like to say. But everything about the honeybees, the fact that they represent the sacred feminine, and I'm not a feminist, but we each have sacred masculine and feminine in us. I'm more traditional, if anything. So, but they represent the sacred feminine. They represent the greater good. They represent giving back. They feed us. They're ancient pollinators and messengers. Many years later, I was a digital nomad building honey colony from all over the world. And I visited Delphi, Greece. I'm part Greek. And I was at where the bee goddesses used to be, because they used to basically, they thought they had these prophetic, but they were really like taking in the gases from the rocks and delirious and high, and then giving futuristic prophecies to like Alexander the Great. But I was there in Delphi, and then I saw Know Thyself, and it kind of came full circle of, I really think Know Thyself. I wish that more people can just really be humble and embrace this a self-inquiry and looking at their ego, being honest with themselves. And it
Beautifully
melted.
said.
Oh, thank you. And it brought the bees together, and I'm so grateful to the bees. And then I set out to make Vanishing of the Bees and spent 5 years traveling the world thanks to the honeybees. And they're still disappearing today. They're super important. And I again, it's not what happens to you, but what you do with it. And for me, I remember early on, I still had the rod. I still was limping. And I went to see an astrologer because I was told, it was when I was 29, and I was told that you have your Saturn return. And even though I dabbled in astrology, I was like, that sounds like a B movie. What the fuck is a Saturn return?
Yeah.
I went, and I hope it's okay to swear on your program.
Well,
I'm sorry.
too late now anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it is too
No,
late.
it's
I'm sorry, but I usually ask. I apologize for my.
If this one
potty
even
mouth.
makes it to YouTube, we'll be lucky. So,
Yeah.
but continue. Yeah.
So this man was giving me a reading, and he was talking about Sabian symbols, and he told me, you're going to be in health and wellness. He was talking about my Virgo rising. And I remember thinking, what the hell is this guy talking about? Like, I'm a hard-hitting journalist. I don't do anything with health. And today I'm a functional medicine coach and consultant and have a health and wellness online company. So he did a reading. I remember also he talked to me. I had seen a coyote. To go back, I had my friends from Montreal come visit me and meet my boyfriend at the time. And we were in the desert, and I was totally mesmerized by this coyote, a baby coyote. And the coyote is the trickster. And then I went to the Bodhi tree that day because I wanted to look up the animal medicine, the message of the coyote. And then here I was with this astrologer, and he told me, he brought up the coyote. I didn't mention it. And he said, one of your Sabian symbols or something, he said the coyote is the trickster. And then I remember, because when I went into the Bodhi tree, I wrote down the definition, and I closed the book, and then I went to have a cafe latte at Earth Cafe, and then I got hit, and I never opened the journal again. So I went home. After that session, I opened closet, and I had put all my clothes that were tattered because of the accident. And I opened my journal that I had not opened, and a picture fell to the ground. And I forgot that my friend had taken a picture of the coyote. And then I looked to see, and the coyote can bring you to an intersection and cause a sudden reversal. And I thought to myself, wow, I actually took part in a folklore where I was literally in an intersection for the coyote. And he just, my whole life was changed. And then eventually, because my body exploded, I learned about Candida. This again, 2005. I got off gluten in 2005. And again, in the future, because now it's vogue, but I started just experimenting and reading all this stuff and educating myself. And then eventually was able to heal myself, because what happened, fast forward, is after the movie, after Vanishing of the Bees, I was in the Dominican Republic as part of an environmental film festival. And the week before, we had gone to, my partner and I at the time went to a condo and to just hang out by the beach. I mean, I'd been working 5 years straight, and it was like my respite. And the last day, I thought they were using a leaf blower, and I went to tell them to shut it off. And instead, guy turned around. He was fumigating between two buildings. And turned, it was windy. I got a whole gust of poisons. And then I came back to America, and I couldn't even bike. I was living in Venice, and I couldn't even bike down the boardwalk. And even when I had the metal rod in my leg, I would force myself to be active. I remember many times hiking because I had deferred pain because I didn't size the metal rod properly. And so it would toggle. And so I had 4 years of pain. So in any case, so I went to the doctor, I went to an endocrinologist thinking, it didn't hit me right away that I had chemical body burden, ironic. And then they told me you have lupus and fibromyalgia. Here's some prednisone and some Cymbalta, which I never took. And I set out, and even when I was in the hospital, I asked them to take me off the morphine, and I never took pain meds after I left. And I'll say one thing, that I remember hiking Runyon. No, it wasn't Runyon. It was near Beechwood. And I had the rod, and I was walking, and all of a sudden I heard this very ominous buzzing. And I looked to my left, and there was like a huge swarm coming through the canyon. And I was scared of bees then. Now, like, I don't know if you saw my picture with me, bees all over my body.
I did see that, yeah.
I did that on purpose to show people not to be scared. But at the time, the whole swarm flew through me. I know now because they're looking for their next home, so they're not minding you. And so I had a swarm of bees fly through me before the bees ever were on my radar. Now, fast forward, I'm making the movie. Maybe it was year 2, and I'm at Runyon. And now I'm walking in the ominous cloud. Like, how many people can say, I've been in a swarm of bees like 4 times. This time on the right, it came, and the people, there was a couple, and I remember they ducked, and I jumped up. And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm making a movie about bees right now. And they've visited me.
Wow.
And I have so many magical stories. I'll say, like, the day that Ellen, who's now Elliot Page, we were directing her. She was in home in Canada and New Brunswick, and she was at a studio. That day, a honeybee flew into my office, and George, my co-director, George Langworthy, and I had a honeybee in the corner the whole time of our recording. And then these are my bee stripes. If you look, it's the Fibonacci sequence.
Oh, cool.
And
Nice.
I was in Los Angeles, and the first time I did ayahuasca was with Mickey Willis, who directed Plandemic, who's a friend, and I was in his studio with Nadia. It was weird to do Aya in downtown, but I was crying, and it was very difficult to make the film, and I was on food stamps, and I didn't know what the F out, meaning like, what is this? Is this going to be something? And I had wanted to get a bee tattoo, but it just came to me to just wait. I didn't know if it's going to be a picture of actual bee or whatever. Mm-hmm. So then during my Aya ceremony, I saw a whole swarm of bees in my mind's eye. And then I just heard the words, "You've earned your stripes." How fucking cool is that?
That's the tattoo.
So these are my bee stripes that I wear so proudly to be in service to this beautiful, beautiful insect.
Well, that's beautiful. And a few things you touched on, the whole know thyself, right? If anybody going through this awakening who's taking it seriously knows that this is about a path of self-discovery. That's what this ultimately is. We're not going to get anywhere until we know who we are. And I've said this plenty of times in the past, but it's so true. Every day, that is my mission, to figure out who I am and what I'm actually doing here, and getting out of the ego and all that stuff. And it's not easy because we live in a world that's meant to distract us.
The ego, I mean, it's also about like how, let's say I'm speaking to you and I know that in instances I'm aggro, or or I know I could come off as a bitch, or just to be like with your shadow self, to be familiar and to understand the concept of projection.
Yes.
Because, and I'm an empath. And to be, there's narcissism is a spectrum. There's malignant narcissism. They think, if you're self-confident, obviously if you're a public figure, there's narcissistic qualities. You can say they're benevolent. I mean, it's not a malignant. for me, a malignant, and we're really dealing with an epidemic of narcissism. And yes, it's thrown around, but to me, it's defined by no empathy, constantly blaming the other person, projecting your shit on someone else without taking, like, that is fundamentally not the way to communicate, because it's a blame stance instead of acknowledging that nothing happens in a vacuum, and also not talking gossip. Because let's say you and I have an interaction and it's negative in somehow, and then you start talking shit about that person. Well, I believe I'm a multifaceted diamond. I have lots of different aspects to me, and I am a mirror. And I will activate different parts of you, and you will activate different parts of me, and to take responsibility. Fundamentally, it's about being a good person, right? If you have bad characteristics, to be just mindful of them. But I'm not into gossiping. It's such poison, especially if you are an influencer and you don't see the power that you have. But you could see, let's say, in just comments, right? You put one negative and it poisons the whole thing. And so that's what I mean about being mindful. And as a functional medicine consultant, that's more authoritative, where I'm telling you, I recommend this and this and this. But as a coach, I'm just your cheerleader, and it's steeped in positive psychology, which we don't talk about often, which is just looking at the positive aspects. And that's, I believe, how you can grow and flourish. And if you're just always pointing the finger outside, I mean, this narcissism is really an epidemic.
I agree 100% with you. And I'm so glad you touched on all that, because I personally, and I know a lot of people who are going through, we have people in our lives that have been in our lives for a while, and we're figuring out that this is the type of person they are, or just people we run into in general, or we notice other public figures have these traits. It's something that I can't ignore anymore. I see it happening everywhere. So I'm so glad you're bringing it up.
I don't know if there's a cure, Tyler.
You don't know if there's a cure? Well,
to narcissism?
No, I don't know if there is either, but there is a lesson in it for everybody.
The cure is them waking up and doing the inner work, but it's such a hard thing to do.
They think they're perfect.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like they have to hit super rock bottom to even possibly get to that point usually.
And consider also that these, I mean, yes, there is a correlation with these narcissistic personalities getting to where they want, but if you have no one that's holding you accountable and just blowing smoke up your ass and feeding that ego, because a lot of times these narcs, they're hella charismatic. They're very likable.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's overlooking because you want to be in their good graces. And when they're giving you, when they're getting narcissistic supply or love bombing you or paying attention to you, it could be super dazzling, but then it comes back to you loving yourself and holding people accountable. And we can all agree that lots of people get away with lots of things that they should not.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you so much for touching on that. That's important. And I know a lot of people are going to resonate with that message. Right now, everything's coming to the surface. And like I said, we're discovering ourselves. And in the past, we might not have noticed these traits amongst our friends or other people around us. Now that we're able to observe that and know ourselves and see where we stand and who we are and how somebody else's behavior could be affecting us or other people around them, it's important. And that's how we're going to navigate through these times right now. So,
life is short.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, I also thought I was going to mention when you were telling your story. Isn't it beautiful when you just get a snowball of synchronicities like that? And I think that's how all of our journeys look. It looks different for everybody, but we can go back and think about this happened. If this wouldn't have happened, this wouldn't have happened. And it creates a full circle, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. May I say something to that effect?
Yeah.
It's also, let's say you look at the George Floyd incident I'm just going to use that as an example, the trial, where you're given a set of skills, let's say in this case, policing or an emergency. My point is, under an emergency or in the moment, mistakes happen. If you're going to sit there and point the finger and not that anyone should have died, but I'm just saying in life, things happen for a reason. We don't necessarily know why. We may never know why. We may know 5 years from now. But if we can be steeped in faith, in trusting, like right now, have to have a surgery to remove a fibroid. I'm not sleeping at night because it's pushing on my bladder. It's hellish. I'm miserable. And, I could get stuck in why me and why is this happening? And just trust, okay, I'm going to remove it. I'm going to be better. Just trusting, or even let's say something comes out of your mouth. I remember saying something and then I shamed myself. I felt embarrassed. And then my teacher said, you don't know what seeds you're planting, or you don't know how that your comment sat on other people. Like, that's the magic that we've abandoned. And I haven't had that ball of synchronicity happen in a long time. I've had synchronistic moments. Often recently, I'm writing and the word that I'm writing at that moment is being said. But that ball of synchronicity, that magic. And unfortunately, I believe that the Rona regime has really killed something at least I could just speak for me, killed something. I remember I was doing
Well, that's the test. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
But that's the test. That's kind of what, it's not just you. I listened to an interview yesterday where somebody was saying the same exact thing about how this situation had really took a toll on their health, and they don't feel like themselves anymore. What blah blah blah. This is where we're tested. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to get yourself out of it? You just answered all your own questions as you were telling that story. So we know what we have to do, and you have been shown what that beautiful snowball of synchronicities looks like, and you know what that feels like. So now you have a place to try and return, a feeling to get back to. So it exists. So it's not like it's hopeless.
No, it's not. Definitely not hopeless. I was doing this. I went to CPAC and I got kicked out of CPAC, and as did Jason Goodman, and I didn't do anything wrong, and their theme was censored, and it really, I was kind of like, I'm out. I'm not going to cover politics anymore. I've come all the way here. You've told me to leave. I've gone above and beyond. I've done amazing reports, like 6-piece reports on the election fraud, on the deadly insurrection, on the coronavirus. I really was like finding so much joy being with others that happened to be conservatives. And I was like so turned off. You took my money, didn't give me a refund. You embarrassed me. And I was just like, I don't want to be part of this political theater anymore. I know where I stand. And that's not to say with the people are amazing. And that's why I went to the Capitol. Well, I wanted to get a read on the president. And that's why I've gone to these events, to be with other patriots and to feel free. But it really turned me. So around that time I was in Florida, and I got this Steven Johnson syndrome. I almost died. It was this very bad skin, but I did a quantum hypnosis, and
Nice.
I didn't mean to go through lives. And even that's what I mean. The one part woo, she's like, okay, tell me what you see. And I didn't know we were doing hypnosis or regression. And I wanted to say bitch, I don't see anything. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But but I went through it and I could see more and more. And then she told me to fast forward to this life. And I sometimes see words like across my forehead. And I just saw hijack. And I got really, really angry. And I felt like these elitists, like life is challenging enough. And I just felt like they killed a part of the spirit without people realizing it. Do this psychological, I mean, this has been traumatic on so many levels. Just walking down the street, and now I see even in San Francisco less people wearing the masks outside, and realizing the impact that it's had for me not to see people's faces.
Yes, that's
without us realizing it.
You nailed it. They hijack our individuality. They hijacked our spirituality. They hijack all of it. That is their game. Anything anti-life, anything that
family.
Yes, exactly. They take it away from us. This is what they do. So, I mean, you're on point as far as that goes. And I guess so. You saw the word hijack when you were looking at the.
I saw the word hijack. When it comes to this life.
This just when it comes to this life, not in particular any event.
No, with the Rona, with the coronavirus.
Sure.
And you can go back and see how every time, whether it's Zika, they've tested it, and they must be really happy with themselves. The I Can't Breathe with George Floyd. It was like the second or third day, and then Bridget, the sister, was on TV, and I noticed that she was wearing "I Can't Breathe" t-shirt. And I'm like, are print shops essential? Is that supposed to be in good taste that you wear your sibling? Or is that like leftover kitsch from Eric Garner? But I didn't know about Eric Garner. I just went online and I said, "I Can't Breathe," Benjamin Crump, George Floyd, and Eric Garner came up. I'm like, oh, he also said "I can't breathe" 11 times. He was also represented by Benjamin Crump. He was also autopsied by Michael Baden. And
coincidence.
Right. And Fry, Jacob Fry, and the rest of the country was putting down their mask mandates. So the 25th at the scene, no one's really wearing a mask. Thomas Lane, the supposed paramedics. And then the next day at their very quick press conference, everybody's wearing a mask. And, I wear it for 5 minutes. And what comes to my mind? I can't breathe. Wow. Yeah. What a psyop.
Predictive programming, social conditioning, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. Did you hear about Christopher Sign, that ABC journalist? Do you know who that is? He just on Saturday they announced that he died. He was the journalist in 2016 that exposed the Clinton tarmac scandal or whatever. Yeah.
Really? What's his name?
Christopher Sign. I was just reading about it right before we came on.
How do you spell the last name?
Sign.
Okay. So
yeah. But anyway, he was found dead on Saturday, and they suspected suicide, right? Of course, he is exposing the Clintons, dies of suspected suicide, but it's under investigation. So I guess in 2016, when the whole Clinton email thing was going on, he wrote a book on the Clinton tarmac scandal, and he got recognition for it. Anyway,
there's no shortage of suicides.
Yeah, exactly. I was just curious if you had heard about that or not, because
no, I haven't. I will look at it, but I'm familiar with all the people in the medical field, whether they're activists or doctors, that in fact, before the rollout of the Rona, the man had died. They say that he committed suicide. I don't know if he was found bobbing in a river, but like Bradstreet. But it turned out that he had been giving exemptions to parents for a decade. And in reality, he had died, but then the media does this. They recirculate this old story, if not an old theme, but it was really to warn people, because now I believe, I don't know, every state is different, but you can only give X amount of exemptions. And I had a friend not long ago ask me if they knew someone, and I was too scared to even speak on the phone. But this, they say that they've committed suicide. It's on and on and on.
An exemption for what? I'm sorry.
For vaccine. Sorry.
For the vaccine. Okay.
For their child. For their child. This doctor for a decade had been giving exemptions, and those days are limited now, because they've taken our rights. For me specifically, because I had the Steven Johnson syndrome, which is a rare skin disorder where I'm literally blistering my hands and had rash all over. But if I were to take a vaccine, I could die. So that's an example of something horrible happening to you. And now it's going to be my silver lining to not get the jab, or have a reason that I hope is legitimate.
Right. You just said, why do we have to have a reason besides I don't want to, right? But we know why, because they're pushing it on us. But that's at least you have that. And I hope, hopefully we can steer through these times without having to, with some of us, hopefully we can avoid it, because I sure don't want to take it.
But how about like flying? Or one guy was like, here is like, I took one for the tribe. Okay, buddy, you're so good. I wish I was as good of a person as you. The
Illuminati tribe. The tribe.
Yeah. What tribe? Yeah.
The tribe of dum dum. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Exactly. The whole airline, that's an entirely different conversation. It's just a lot of negative energy going on there right now.
Right.
But we've been going for a little bit, quite a while now. So I think we're going to start wrapping this up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing all your information, telling your story. I know a lot of people needed to hear a lot of that stuff. So we appreciate everything you're doing, and good luck in the future. Would you mind sharing with people how they can find you?
Please, yes. You can find me on Telegram. The channel is Truth Lives Here. I am Lady B on Gab, and I'm Maryam Henein on Twitter. And what else? I have a YouTube channel, Maryam Henein B Lady. I'm on my second YouTube channel with 2 strikes, so I'm treading very carefully. And hopefully my book will be out in the fall, and it's George Floyd, a multi-layered PSYOP examined. And people can always email me if they're interested in a coaching or consulting session at Maryam, Maryam, at honeycolony.com. And you can buzz on over to honeycolony.com, which is a magazine and marketplace aimed at empowering you to be your own best health advocate.
Yeah. When you sent me all those links prior to this, I was like, wow, you're everywhere. More people should know about you. So guys, go follow her. She's doing some incredible work. I will put all of everything she just mentioned. We'll have links for all that in the description. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing what you do. Yeah. Guys, don't forget, get a ticket and come to Sedona. Hang out with us in Sedona. Tickets are going quick, and it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of new faces, a lot of young blood there. So, there's so many people with great things to say now. So it's nice to see new faces coming forward at these conferences. $333 for the weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. And guys, thank you for all your support. Thanks for the donations. Thanks for everything. Like even some of the comments lately, I was talking about the negative comments, but we've been getting some really beautiful comments, and I've actually been screenshotting them because it's a good reminder. It reminds me of why I'm doing this, why we're doing this. And some of them are just, they mean more than you realize when we get stuff like that. That's worth more than a donation, you know. It just ensures us that we're doing the right thing. So thank you guys for that. And next week we will not be having a regularly, I can't even say that word, scheduled show, but I think we're gonna do something special for you guys on next Saturday. Is it next Saturday? Not this coming up Saturday, the 26th.
Next Saturday.
Yeah, next Saturday. But you just have to stay tuned and wait and see what that is. So other than that, thanks again. Maryam, guys, go check her stuff out. And other than that, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Have a great night, everybody, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.